police conduct an illegal search, will that evidence be suppressed later if the police got a search warrant? All right, this is Anthony Bandier here bringing the roadside chat. So this question basically comes from an officer in, I think, Nebraska, I think. So during an investigation of a drug overdose, a cell phone was seized for the purpose of writing a search warrant. Now, prior to the search warrant, the phone was quickly looked at, photos and messages. A search warrant was completed, and none of that evidence that the police saw was included in the search warrant. It was not until the warrant was signed and then the phone downloaded that they actually used that evidence against the defendant, right? They also found child porn evidence and so forth. So, what's going to happen to this evidence, right? What happens to seeing the, let's say, the child porn pictures before the warrant was issued? Are we going to lose that? The answer is no. Really, this is the independent source doctrine. So the exclusionary rule is basically there to punish cops, to teach cops a lesson that you can't violate people's rights and then get to use those fruits of those violations, right? So if I'm a police officer and, I go into a house and illegally and search around and find evidence, and then, either A, just charge that person, that's the exclusionary rule, or even B, if I wrote a warrant based on that evidence that I illegally saw, that's not going to save the warrant, right? The whole thing is going to be tainted. But here, it's a little different, right? The cops seems like they did not engage in best practice. They really should not be searching phones prior to judicial authority unless they have some form of exigency or consent, right? But here, because they did not put those observations in the search warrant, then there's no reason, according to the courts, to teach the cops a lesson. They should not be put in a worse position than they would have been if they did it the right way in the beginning, right? So there's a couple of cases I'm going to put here in the description below. One is a case called Murray versus U.S. Supreme Court. That talks about the inevitable discovery of things. And then we also have Nix versus Williams, U.S. Supreme Court, and that talks about the independent discovery doctrine or independent source doctrine. So they're a little different, though. Let me just kind of give you some feedback before you leave the video. So the inevitable discovery doctrine is that, hey, at the time of the search, right, the alleged illegal search, was there a mechanism that was in play that would have inevitably found the same evidence? Okay, a classic example is this. Cops are searching a vehicle, right? And they don't have probable cause. They think they do, but they just don't, right? It's a kind of a good faith type of mistake. And they find evidence underneath the driver's seat. And the suspect says, I want that evidence suppressed. It's tainted. But then the court finds that the cops inevitably were going to do an inventory search. In other words, at the time of the illegal search, the cops testified convincingly, right, that they were going to tow the car anyway because the driver had no license, for example. That is inevitable discovery. Okay. Independent source is a little different. Independent source is this idea that cops illegally obtained evidence, but something else was going on, right? Some other investigative method was going on that would have independently found the same evidence. Let me give you an example. Cops illegally coerced a confession out of a person about where a dead body was, right? And the defendant says, yeah, the dead body is in the woods. I'll show you where it is, right? So totally illegal. The confession was coerced. It's, through the poisonous tree type stuff. And then they find the body. Well, at the same time, right, whether the police knew it or not, and they probably did, but at the same time, there was a search party in the area, right? And the cops can prove that that search party, based on the grid and the testimony from the people leading that search party, that they were going to search that same area eventually for the body. That is independent source doctrine. You see how they're kind of related, inevitable discovery and independent source? So I hope it helps. But I'm going to throw these cases in the description read them, and hopefully if you have any questions, let me know. And I hope that this video helped you get it right every single time.